Okay, I'm revisiting the age-old argument, actually the argument that caused me to create commentary-style videos in the first place, and that is Elden Ring / Dark Souls needing an easy mode. So the video we're going to be taking a look at today is called Asking for a Dark Souls Easy Mode Isn't Asking Not to be Challenged, Accessibility.
Hello everyone, Laura K. Buzz here, and welcome to another episode of Accessibility. It's a show where I talk about the video game industry, accessibility, and representation. Basically, can we make more people able to play games, and more people able to see themselves in games?
Okay, but here's the thing, everyone's able to access Dark Souls, it's just some people might have to put a little bit more work in to get more out of it than others.
That's what this show's about. Now, when it comes to picking a difficulty mode in a video game, there's a lot of things that can go into that choice. When I'm playing Wolfenstein, for example, I put it on easy mode because it's a power fantasy.
But see, here's the thing with Dark Souls, it's meant to be the opposite of a power fantasy. You're meant to think, how in the hell am I ever going to beat this? Like, I am just so outpowered by this enemy. You're meant to struggle and then finally overcome that challenge that you thought you'd never ever beat.
I just want to mow down and I don't want to have any trouble doing that. If I'm playing a first-person shooter, I know that's a genre that I personally struggle with, so I'll probably put it on easy mode for that. And I might play a game on easy mode just because there's another game coming out soon and I want to get through this one as quick as possible.
Okay, just like Dark Souls isn't meant to be a power fantasy, Dark Souls is also one of those games that you're not meant to just pick up, beat in a day, and put down after. It's a game that's meant to take time. You're meant to struggle and then finally overcome that challenge. It might take you a long time, but you're eventually going to do it if you try hard enough. I know people that it took them 1 week to beat Elden Ring. I also know people who it took them 1 year to beat Elden Ring. Everyone's different in how fast they can beat these games, but everyone can do it.
And the easiest way to do that is with easy mode. There's a lot of reasons why someone might want to play a game on easy mode.
Okay, if you're looking for an easy, laid-back experience, I don't know why the fuck you're coming over to Dark Souls of all games, but okay.
And I want to clear up today a misconception I see a lot around games like Dark Souls, Cuphead, Super Meat Boy. There's this idea that adding an easy mode to those games would ruin them, because the whole point of the game is the player is supposed to be challenged, they're supposed to have a difficult time. A lot of these games are built around that idea, or they're built around that as structure. The narrative sometimes even builds around that, but I don't think that that would be ruined if you gave players an easy mode.
Okay, but an easy mode absolutely would ruin Dark Souls. I mean, the entire theme of the game is don't go hollow, don't give up. Places like Firelink Shrine wouldn't be as important as they are and impactful as they are because it wouldn't matter. The reason Firelink Shrine is so impactful and important is because everywhere around it is so hostile and difficult. Some bosses' lore is built around how difficult they are. Artorias is a legendary knight that fell to the darkness from Manus. So Artorias is a really difficult boss fight, and then Manus is even more difficult. And it lines up with the lore. A boss like Radahn in Elden Ring is constantly hyped up by all the characters around him, and when you finally get to him, he doesn't disappoint. He will absolutely kick your ass. You look at a boss like Ludwig from Bloodborne, he gets a hold of the Holy Moonlight Sword and he makes sure it's a difficult fucking fight for it. You truly get to see the power of that sword because Ludwig kicks your ass with it over and over and over again. I think I said this in a previous video, but can you imagine you finally get up to Radahn? All these characters are hyping him up, and when you get into the arena, it's like a wet fart of a fight.
So, here's the basis of the argument. The Dark Souls series is often summarised best as being about carrying on when things get tough. The tone and the setting are bleak, death is expected to be frequent, and one of the things people love about the game is overcoming a boss so powerful you thought you'd never get past it.
Yeah, and if you added easy mode, it would take that away from people. Death wouldn't be as frequent, and when you beat a really hard boss, or a boss that would be really hard on normal mode, you wouldn't get that overwhelming sense of accomplishment that you got if you were getting your ass kicked by him for 3 hours like the rest of us. The overwhelming sense of accomplishment you get when you finally beat it is the best part. Trust me, I know, when I started Bloodborne, it took me 12 hours to even make it to the fucking tutorial boss one time. And then I died instantly and had to run back to him again. But then I found a shortcut, and then I found Molotovs that I could use in the boss fight. 10 or so tries later and I beat the boss. Then a month passes and I got the Platinum Trophy, and it was an amazing experience. I overcame a challenge that I thought I could never ever beat, and if easy mode was available, I probably would have just picked easy mode, beaten the game that way, and stripped myself of an amazing experience.
It's a game about not giving up when things look their worst, and a number of players out there will argue that adding an easy mode would undermine this core gameplay and narrative experience. If nothing in Dark Souls kills you because the game's too easy, is that stripping the player of experiencing aspects of the narrative the creators intended?
Yes, because the entire theme of Dark Souls is don't go hollow, don't give up. When things get difficult, push on, and try your best. Eventually, you'll overcome the challenge.
So, let's get this out of the way. I don't think that anyone who argues for Dark Souls, or Super Meat Boy, or Cuphead to get an easy mode is saying that that should be the only way to play the game. I think that everyone, whether they enjoy these games' current level of difficulty or not, can see that this level of difficulty does offer something valuable to a lot of players. Don't worry, we're not arguing that you should have to play on easy mode. We're not taking hard mode away from you. If what you're worried about is that saying I beat Dark Souls won't mean as much if there's an easy mode, just specify what difficulty you beat it on. Your get good gamer cred won't be impacted if you say I beat it on hard mode.
I don't think anyone's reasons for enjoying Dark Souls being a difficult game is so they can say, well, I beat a hard game. Because, I mean, anyone can just go into a hard game, cheat, and win.
But what I really want to focus on today is this incorrect idea that creating an optional easy mode in these kind of games is something that players are only pushing for because they don't want games to challenge them.
Okay, but here's the thing, that's literally what you're asking for when you ask for an easy mode. You're asking for the game to be easier, or less challenging, so it doesn't challenge you as much. I mean, that's kind of the entire point of an easy mode.
Quite the opposite. Many players, myself included, sometimes want easy difficulty modes so that they can have the same challenging experience that you're already having with Dark Souls or Cuphead or Super Meat Boy.
But you wouldn't be getting the same experience that I'm having because you're not really playing the exact same game. You're playing a neutered, watered down version of the game that isn't as challenging. In fact, the developers for Elden Ring and Dark Souls came out and said the reason they don't add an easy mode is because they want everyone to experience the same level of challenge, or the same experience.
We want a challenge that knocks us over again and again, but feels just achievable enough to push through and achieve, rather than something that feels impossibly above our skill ceiling. We want a challenge that's tough, but achievable. Many players like myself sometimes want an easy mode that isn't a total walk in the park. And before you say that I just suck at games and I just want everything watered down for me, 2 of the 3 examples I have in here, Dark Souls and Cuphead, are games I've beaten. There are other games that I want easy modes for, so that I can be challenged and have it completable. But it's not just that I suck at games, it's sometimes a specific game is tough in a specific way, and I need just a little bit easier to have the same challenging experience you're having. And before anyone thinks they're clever and points at, oh, Cuphead's got an easy mode already, Cuphead has an easy mode that does not let you progress through the game.
Cuphead's easy mode bosses shouldn't let you progress because you're not really beating that boss, you're just kind of beating half of it and preparing for it. For me, when I played Cuphead, I beat a lot of the bosses on the easier mode, and then that prepared me to beat the boss on the regular mode.
It's not really an easy mode if you can't play it on a reduced difficulty and progress to play the next part of the game on that reduced difficulty. It's not quite the same thing.
Okay, but you didn't really beat the boss when you're beating it on the easy difficulty, so why should you be rewarded with the progression that comes from beating the boss?
Other than that, there are games like Celeste or Sayonara Wild Hearts that don't strictly have an easy mode, but allow players to avoid optional dangerous areas, skip sections they simply can't seem to pass, or tweak specific character data to momentarily help themselves get past a section.
Yeah, but Celeste is a single-player game, so if you cheat and beat that game, well, I'm gonna call it cheating, but if you cheat and beat that game, it's not gonna harm anyone else. But in a game like Dark Souls, if you cheat and go to the end and get a endgame weapon, you can actually go use those endgame weapons against players that aren't cheating. I'm calling it cheating, but technically it would be called using easy mode, but you get what I mean. And if you're to just skip an area that's too difficult for you, that's kind of ruining the experience for yourself. I know people don't like Blighttown, but part of the big journey of Dark Souls is preparing to go down to Blighttown knowing that you're gonna have to climb all the way back out when you're done.
As I said before, there's a lot of different reasons someone might play an easy mode in a game. But let's get past this notion that picking an easy mode means someone doesn't want to experience challenge.
Okay, but the thing is, going in easy mode, you're avoiding part of the challenge. You might not be avoiding all of it, but you're still avoiding part of it. And the developers of Elden Ring and Dark Souls said they want everyone experiencing the same level of challenge. Also, another point that I want to bring up that I just thought of, what about all these YouTubers that make channels based on beating hard Dark Souls bosses? Like, what would happen to them if they added an easy mode? Everyone would just turn to easy mode the second they start struggling, and these YouTubers' channels would die. Also, less people would co-op because a lot of people co-op because they struggle with a boss. If you added an easy mode, people wouldn't struggle as much anymore, and people wouldn't co-op. Like, I mean, it would destroy the Dark Souls community. Discussions on how people beat hard bosses would disappear, videos on how to beat these bosses would disappear, co-op would disappear. I mean, it would fucking shatter the game.
Everyone's skill level is different, and skill levels differ from game to game. Choosing to give myself a little extra time in Celeste occasionally doesn't mean I didn't challenge myself, and it didn't take away from my enjoyment of that game's narrative about overcoming difficult experiences.
Yes, but the difference with Celeste and Dark Souls, well, there's a couple differences. First of all, Celeste is single player, Dark Souls is multiplayer, so when you cheat in Dark Souls, or use easy mode, it's affecting other people when you go online, whereas in Celeste, it's not hurting anybody. Second of all, Dark Souls developers said they're not adding an easy mode because it destroys their vision of the game, whereas with Celeste, they chose to add an easy mode. Third of all, the story in Celeste is nowhere near the same as the story in Dark Souls. The entire point of Dark Souls is overcoming challenge and not going hollow.
My playing the game that way didn't impact anyone else's experience, or change my perception of that game's challenge-based narrative. We need to get over this notion that if someone picks an easy mode, they don't want to be challenged. A lot of people just want the same experience you're having. They want to experience Dark Souls the way you have.
I'm pretty sure most people don't want to have the experience I had the first time I played a Souls game. Taking 12 hours to get up to the tutorial boss and then dying to him immediately and having to run back. But when I look back on it, I'm so happy that that was my experience because it made that platinum trophy so much more satisfying when I achieved it. And if you don't know what a platinum is, it's getting every achievement in the game.
Where you try again, you try again, you try again, you knock down, and you eventually progress. And you feel like you're making progress, you're getting stronger. You feel like it is achievable, but difficult. Someone asking to be challenged a little bit less doesn't mean they're asking not to be challenged.
And that brings us to the end of the video. At the end of the day, don't add an easy mode to Dark Souls. We love the challenge the way it is, and yeah, if you don't like the challenge in Dark Souls, that's fine, but don't come over to Dark Souls, a game series where we all like the challenge and demand the challenge be changed. Alright, peace.